Hi, welcome to the Talk Sox podcast. I'm Brock Beauchamp, and this is Nick John with me. Sorry for the slight delay. I'm having a bit of computer issues right now, so it took us a few minutes longer to get this up and running. But the Red Sox have signed starting pitcher Ranger Suarez to a 5-year, $130 million contract. It appears there are no deferrals, no opt outs, no trade clause. It's hard to say. But overall, I mean, the Red Sox have been looking for some position players for a while. Nick, what do you think of them pivoting to another pitcher?
So obviously Monday night I had talked to Chris Cotillo following the Bregman fallout, and he had said it wasn't unlikely for them to pivot towards pitching, as every option was on the table. And he had mentioned a few names that they could have targeted: Suarez, Zach Gallen was another, Framber Valdez. He had said because of how they lost Bregman, they were now in a position where, they couldn't really play around with the market anymore, and they would have to get aggressive. And obviously that happened today.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you improve the baseball team however you can. And this opens up a whole other can of worms about how do the Red Sox go get that position player that they're going to need this offseason. But we'll get to that a little bit later. First, let's talk a little bit about who Ranger Suarez is. He's 30 years old. He's going to turn 31 in August. So for all intents and purposes, 2026 is his age 30 season. 125 career ERA plus, a 321 FIP this last year, and a 23.2% K rate. He's a good ground ball pitcher, 46.8% ground ball rate, and he throws a sinker, change, cutter, and curve in that order. He also has he throws a four seam as well, doesn't do it very often, but he really leans on that sinker quite a bit to get that ground ball rate up. So how does he fit in this rotation, in your opinion, Nick?
In my opinion, he automatically becomes that number two pitcher the team had said they wanted at the start of the offseason. Personally, I'm not sure if they'd line him up as number two in the rotation, maybe to break up him and Crochet. He goes the third game of the season instead of second. Of course, it all depends on how they're ramped up during spring training. Alex Cora, he always does his own thing when it comes to getting pitchers ready for opening day. Along with that, I think it definitely strengthens the rotation. I mean, going out and getting someone like Suarez, this lengthens it so much more, because now instead of, say, Bayo, who is your number three, now you've got Bayo possibly as your four or even five, depending on how Oviedo looks during spring. It gives them a chance. You can use one of your young pitchers now, go out, trade for a bat. And along with that, one thing that I love about Suarez is he's proven in the postseason. So far in his career, 4-1, a 1.48 ERA across nearly 43 innings pitched. That plays in the playoffs, and what you need is good pitching, as the Sox saw how their season ended this year.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, maybe most importantly is when in the modern game, anytime you can push the rookies either to 5, 6, or 7 in the rotation, this allows you to push guys like Tole and Early, and maybe start them out in AAA depending on how they perform in spring and the rest of the winter. Which there's a 50% chance that the Red Sox won't break camp and head north to Fenway with the 5 guys that they want. So you're automatically you're raising the floor by so much by getting a good pitcher in, so that you're not relying on those 6 and 7 options on opening day or shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I mean, obviously last year, as we saw, Giolito, Cutter Crawford, and Brian Bayo, they were all opening the year on the injured list. Because of that, they ended up having Sean Newcomb, who was a non-roster invitee. He made the opening day roster as the number 5 starter. I mean, he only made a couple starts anyway, but then he gets traded to Oakland and somehow becomes like one of the best relief pitchers out on the West Coast. So obviously, oh, sorry. But
no, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I was just going to say, with the way they have their depth right now, even after trading away Hunter Dobbins, trading away Richard Fitz, designating Cooper Criswell, they have, obviously right now, today's January 14th. It's going to change between now and, March 26th, I think their opening day game is. But right now, they currently have enough starting pitching to have a full rotation in Boston and a full rotation in Worcester of, especially in Worcester, pitchers they can bring up and send down as needed, compared to previous seasons where they're scraping the bottom of the barrel and they're calling up Kyle Barraclough to pitch in August while they're fighting for a playoff spot.
Right. That important depth is so much of baseball over 162 is not only, having your elite players like Crochet at the top of a rotation, it's making sure that your below replacement level guys aren't getting a ton of starts either. And this does a pretty good job of giving the Red Sox enough different options that they shouldn't have to dip, down to the waiver wire tier of guys in the rotation. And if you are, things are probably so bad that you just aren't really worrying about a playoff spot at that point anyway. But we have Suarez's 2025 Savant page up here, and as you can see, a lot of red, but the one thing he doesn't do is throw hard. He is not a velo guy, but that is pretty common when you're dealing with a sinker guy and sinker changeup guy. And I'm just curious to see how he's going to play in front of the Red Sox infield this year with that ground ball rate, especially given that the Red Sox didn't get Bregman. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's all going to come down to how Trevor Story is, in a sense, because if we get pre-September Trevor Story, I think it will be better off. But if Story defensively is how he was in September, it could be a rough time for Suarez for some games. In my opinion, depending on what the Sox do the rest of the offseason for their infield, if they have Marcel Meyer as the opening day third baseman, I think that will be fine, because last year, yes, it was a small sample size. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head. I think it was 39 games he played at third base last year. He ended up being fielding run value. He had a positive 2. His range was a 2. He was very good defensively in his short sample size at that position. And I think if they decide we want to find a second baseman either on the trade market or as a free agent and just have Meyer play third, defensively, I think they'll be fine on that left side of the infield.
Sure. And so talking about trades, I mean, this opens up a whole different avenue for the Craig Breslow and Red Sox to explore. Is you're not looking to sign an Alex Bregman at this point. You're probably more looking to sign or to trade for an Isaac Paredes or somebody like that. What avenue do you think the Red Sox might pursue in that way?
If I'm being honest, with the way Craig Breslow is, I have no idea where he's going to turn. One player that I wouldn't be surprised, because they've already made a couple deals with the team, Brandon Donovan from the St. Louis Cardinals. If they can get a match going with them, it feels like
call up Home. There you go.
Yeah, I was going to say, seems like the two of them, they seem to get along well on trade talks.
Yeah.
Another player who I'm not too sure is actually calling up the Chicago Cubs, maybe seeing Matt Shaw, Nico Horner. I'm sorry, I mispronounce his name all the time. Nico Horner.
Horner. Just pretend that he isn't there. Horner.
Okay. Horner. One of those two maybe, because now that they got Bregman, they have an extra infielder. But yeah, for the most part, I think they're just going to look for anything they can find.
Yeah, I see a lot of talk about the Cubs. And for people who don't know, we also run a Cubs site, Northside Baseball. I don't see the Cubs trading Horner, and I don't see them trading Shaw either, unless they're down on Shaw. And in that case, you probably don't want Shaw in the first place. But the Cubs have made 2 serious pushes to try to get over past the Brewers, and they haven't been able to do it. And trading Nico Horner really kneecaps that attempt, even if the return is good. So I don't see the Cubs really strongly pursuing trading one of their infielders unless the offer is too good to resist. At that point, if I'm the Red Sox, I don't want to make that offer. I would definitely pursue one of the other guys, Donovan, Paredes. There are other. It's not that hard to find a position player compared to a pitcher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing that I am curious about, though, is I know Arizona had said Marte's off the market. Originally in talks, they wanted either Early or Tolle. Is Breslow now a little bit more willing to move one of the two now that the rotation is as stacked as it is? Personally, I don't know about that thought. I think there's too much talent between those two right now to trade one. But then again, when you're getting an all-star like Marte back, you got to at least reopen up negotiations and see what it would take.
Absolutely. And, nobody's going to be falling over themselves to trade Conley or Early or any of those guys. But if you're getting Marte back, boy, does he fill the exact hole that you need. And you have Crochet locked up for however many years. You have now Suarez locked up for 5 years. When's Bale a free agent?
Let me double check, but I'm pretty sure he has 4 more years left because he signed the extension heading into 24.
That's what I thought. I couldn't remember 3 or 4. But, you have 3/5 of a rotation right there locked up for about as long as you ever want any pitcher locked up. So if you're going to trade a young starting pitcher, Red Sox are in a pretty good position to do that right now.
Yeah. So Bayo, he can be a free agent after 2029, but the team has a club option for 2030 for what looks to be around $21 million.
Yeah, so you have a top 3 that looks real good right there, and I mean the AL East. Well, it depends on what the Yankees do, but I mean Toronto is just spending funny money right now, and if you want to try to leapfrog the Yankees, and maybe the Orioles will rebound this year. Hard to say with their ownership what they're going to spend. But the Blue Jays are the clear favorites in the division. It seems really hard to even think about passing them, and they're in heavily on Kyle Tucker as well, which is just kind of ludicrous. But, it's going to take some offensive help, and I think the Red Sox kind of have to seriously pursue an above-average hitter to play somewhere on the field.
Oh, definitely. I mean, right now, with how their projected lineup looks, it's a step back from last year, especially with Bregman gone. Yeah. I mean, maybe you can hope that Marcel Meyer takes a step forward offensively. He seems to have done that throughout the minors, where especially 2023, he struggled after getting hurt. And then he came back the next year and he showed that he was able to handle pitching in Portland. Well, when he was playing for Portland, the pitching, he was able to handle that. Of course, then he got hurt again. So the big question mark with him is, even if he does start to hit this year in the majors, is he going to be able to play? Not even asking for 150. Is he going to be able to make 100 games? Because he's never done that in his professional career yet.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this really turns things on its head. Breslow has been pretty unpredictable, and this is I wouldn't classify this a knee-jerk reaction after losing Bregman, but it's definitely a hard pivot, and the Red Sox kind of needed a win after some of the stuff that was coming out in the wake of the Bregman signing in Chicago, where the reports are conflicting, but it appeared that the Red Sox lost out simply because they wouldn't guarantee a no-trade clause, which always strikes me as just really a bizarre thing to hill to die on.
Yeah, the Red Sox are kind of weird about that. I actually have not looked into it much, but I saw a tweet the other day where it was something like, I believe the last no-trade clause they gave out was to Dustin Pedroia when he signed his extension in, I believe it was 2010.
Sure. Yeah, that's a long time. But if you're pursuing, swimming in the deep end of the pool in free agency, after what you did to Devers, which I'm not going to pass judgment on it, I don't think that Devers contract was a good contract long term, but it sure was ugly no matter which side of the coin you fall on. If I'm Alex Bregman, I'm absolutely demanding a no-trade clause, because if I want to stay in a place, I'm going to be like, I saw what you just did, 10 months ago, 9 months ago. Of course I'm going to demand a no-trade clause, and then to have that potentially be the sticking point for losing the guy entirely. It's ballsy move. I'll put it at that.
Oh, definitely, especially when even last offseason, Bregman had made a big point of the negotiations was he wanted to find the last team, realistically, that he was going to play for the rest of his career, because he didn't want to have to keep uplifting and moving his family from city to city, depending on, okay, here's a 2-year deal, here's another 2-year deal, or here's a 5-year deal and you're being traded halfway through it. He just wanted to find one place, which I think he wanted that to be Boston based on how it went on the offseason, how he talked about the team and the city during the entire year he was here, but they wouldn't budge on the no trade clause. I think I could be wrong, but personally, I think you give him the no trade deal, and I think he takes the $10 million less from Boston.
Yeah, I mean, there's no such thing as a single free agent where if you always offer this thing, they're going to take it. Everyone's different than a human being. But it sure gave the impression that Bregman was less interested in maximizing dollars and more interested in maximizing security, which, I mean, if it's a difference between $10 million or a no trade clause, I'd give up the no trade clause every time, especially to a quality guy like Bregman, who's great in the clubhouse and, by all means, a stand-up human being. It's even if he's at a diminished level, you still want him on your team in some capacity. Anyway, this is not the Alex Bregman signing podcast. This is the Raider Suarez signing podcast, and we're just going to talk for another minute or two. Maddie and Alex are going to be by tomorrow morning to do more of a long-form podcast. We just wanted to get our thoughts out there, and it's great to see the Red Sox finally do something.
Yeah, I mean, the whole joke this whole offseason was they hadn't signed anyone. Obviously, they made 3 big trades, but people really like to see that money spent instead, even if they're still bringing in money on the books through these other contracts. Of course, this is a lot of money they just spent on a 30-year-old pitcher who has a track record of success. My one area of concern besides his velocity is he has never made 30 starts in a season. His career high was 29 back in 2022. So is he going to hold up across the whole season, or is there going to be a stint where we're going to be without him for roughly a month's worth of games? Obviously not all at once. It could be a week here in April. He could miss a start in June. Is he going to hold up for that 30 to 32 start range?
Absolutely. But with pitchers nowadays, who isn't that risk? Maybe Freddie Peralta, had they gone that route, that guy's been as durable as can be. But, pitchers are only durable until they're not. And we've seen, wasn't Garrett Cole incredibly durable there for a long time? And then, down he goes. Just, it's impossible to project what a pitcher's going to do. And, Suarez is kind of middle of the road in injury history, which hopefully will mean he just kind of remains middle of the road in injury history. That's a pretty good outcome for the Red Sox.
Yeah. And I mean, even then, even if he only gives you 26, 27 starts a year, if he replicates what he did this past season in 2025, it's worth it. I mean, you got a guy who's striking out batters despite, only having a fastball that averages 90, 91. He's striking them out around 23% of the time thanks to his other pitches, and he doesn't let many people on base by walking them. He only walked, I believe it was just under 6%, something like 5.7 or 5.8% of batters last season that he faced. So he keeps off base, and for someone who doesn't throw hard, he limits hard contact. So
I mean, if you ever want a ground ball guy, he's the profile of the guy you want. He strikes out a solid number of batters, which a lot of ground ball guys struggle with. He doesn't walk anybody, and then he induces weak contact, often on the ground. And that is a winning formula as long as your defense is competent behind him. And I think the Red Sox will be able to field at least a competent defense. It just might be a little bit diminished without Bregman out there. I like everything about this signing. I like that they didn't have to go over 5 years. I think that's a reasonable term for somebody of Suarez's caliber. And, Red Sox have a guy like Suarez last year, they probably get past the Yankees. So you get one more round into the playoffs a couple more times, maybe do better than that. This contract's looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say that it reminds me a lot of the John Lackey contract. Only hopefully, they get better years than the first couple from him.
Sure. Yeah. But any parting thoughts before we head out?
Honestly, my just thoughts now are you have, and it's going to sound like I'm just saying it because I'm a Red Sox fan, but in my opinion, I think it's one of the best rotations in the American League this season. So if everyone stays healthy, I should put that in there because between Crochet, Suarez now, you got Sonny Gray, just those three alone, I think it makes it one of the most competitive rotations in the American League for this upcoming season.
Absolutely. Who else is there? I mean, the Mariners,
obviously the Mariners. You can never count out Detroit just because of, Skubal, but I don't think they have the same depth.
They don't have the depth behind Skubal. I mean, they'll probably be a good rotation, the kind of rotation that scares you in the postseason, but it's not a 162 rotation like the Mariners and now the Red Sox have.
Yeah. My only question / concern is, what does Breslow do to resolve these holes in the lineup? I mean, we got too many outfielders, which, in my opinion, you can't just trade one of them just to get rid of them. You need to get the right deal back, but they definitely need to find either a second or third baseman and decide if they think Meyer is the opening day starter for the other position.
Yeah, and maybe given, you have 6 years of Meyer left, maybe you pursue whatever you think Meyer isn't as good at. Whether you want Meyer to be the second or third baseman, you slot him in there, and then you try to pursue somebody for the other position. Unless you have a Marte that's available, then you do it in reverse. But I'm skeptical of anybody being able to go get Marte, but if you could do it, absolutely. He's a perfect fit.
Definitely. Like I said, I don't think he's going to get moved, but if you can reopen negotiations for a trade, you got to at least give it a phone call.
Absolutely. Okay, well, with that, we will wrap up. Maddie and Alex will be back here tomorrow morning to do a much longer form podcast about where the Red Sox are 1 month out from pitchers and catchers reporting. But we wanted to get this live stream in just to do an instant reaction on the Suarez signing. And thanks for popping in, everybody. I'm Brock Beauchamp, and this is Nick John for Talk Sox.